Do you sometimes have those moments of worrying, fear, and anxious when you think of money? And those moments linger on and impact on your sleep, your work, your relationship with others. And many times you just simply don't want to do anything about it or procrastinate any of the actions. You may be like many people having what we call financial stress or financial anxiety. Join me and Kelly today to learn more about financial stress and financial anxiety and how to identify it and how you are going to improve your money management.
Welcome to the Money DNA channel. Money DNA is a financial fitness community where we bring everything about money and beyond money concepts in life to help you create healthy money habits and to be financially fit for good. It is important to understand that the advice is general in nature and does not take into account your personal objectives, financial needs, and overall well-being situation, and it may not be appropriate for you.
Hi everyone, it's Winnie here. Thank you for tuning in into Money DNA. We've been looking at 3 tips to ease your financial anxiety today. Join me today is Kelly Hope at the Hope Approach. Kelly is a counselor for family, couples, and individuals, meditation practitioner, therapist, and coach. With her work, she helped people discover the connection between beliefs, meanings, and behaviors, and help them overcome difficulty and challenges, and dealing with conflicts and finding harmonies. Kelly is also the founder of the Hope Approach, combining astrology, energy, and counseling. She has helped many heal, strengthen, and develop a deep love and appreciation of oneself. Kelly, welcome to Money DNA again.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So Kelly, is quite interesting. The other day, I actually looked into a piece of the news. It says that the University of Melbourne released a study about financial stress during COVID time. And that study is actually released in March 2021. It says that financial stress and mental distress growing despite the sign of economic upturn. And the number of people reporting financial stress due to the difficulty paying for essential goods and services has risen to 31%. And the number of people making ends meet is 26%, which is definitely concerning, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to start our conversation today and also having you to share us some tips and resources for us to ease the financial anxiety. So first of all, can I please just explain about the difference between financial anxiety and financial stress? Because we heard about these 2 terms all the time. Is there any differences between these 2?
Definitely. Stress and anxiety have actually got very different meanings. We all have stressful times, and an anxiety is actually a diagnosed condition. We can be anxious sometimes, but actually having anxiety is usually diagnosed. So stress can look like things like anger, irritability, being a bit tired or not getting enough sleep, or just really just maybe snapping or being really frightful, maybe instead of actually more anxious. Well, anxiety is that persistenceness of that. If you are continually not sleeping, if you are having excessive worries, if you don't find any joy in your life anymore, if these worries don't go away after the problem has been solved, or we worry about them long, long, long before the future has even become the present.
I like the way that you are mentioning about this. So it sounds to me that the stress itself can be a very short term or the instant hit, but then the anxiety actually is a longer terms. It could also lead to the chronic condition. Am I right to say that?
Yes, it could lead to, that's exactly right. Not all anxious moments and a little bit of anxiety over either it could be a trauma that's happened, or it could be that you've had it all your life and you just didn't know about it.
That actually reminds me of some people that I know, or even my family members, because we've been growing up with the thoughts and the belief that from my parents, maybe they went through the hard time themselves, and then mom constantly reminding us that we don't have enough, or we can't really afford it. When we're learning to the adulthood, all of a sudden we just think that, okay, we don't really have enough. And that creates an anxiety that we can't really afford to pay the bill. We can't really do anything. It definitely is going to take some time for us to heal from that and also recover from that.
Most definitely. So that value would be that scarcity model or a hardworking model. So scarcity means we live to only pay for what we can afford instead of living our life and working, becoming a passion and being in abundance or, financial freedom everyone's sort of talking about. Or we could also be comparing it to hard work. If I don't work hard enough, I will not be rewarded. And we know now that, working 50, 60 hours a week doesn't mean that you're going to be any better off than someone working 20 or 30 hours a week. It just depends on your situation. Those values are very important. And what you think about money leads you to either financial stress or anxiety.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I actually had a conversation with another friend the other day, because working in the financial services industry, having a long hours, especially like 10 or 12 hours of working hours is quite a common thing, because that's what most people are doing. So the other day, one of the young lads that I used to work with, he said that he worked till 1 a.m. on Friday night. And I just said, are you kidding me? This is driving that person mad. And then the following day, of course, you feel a little bit dusted and also fatigued. So that consequently, I guess that is going to also impact on our health and also creating a little bit of anxiety itself. So I guess that earlier you mentioned about a couple of the symptoms. Can you please just recap earlier what you said? What are the symptoms of financial anxiety then?
Yeah, well, I'll just address that one a little bit. That first one of, working into 1 a.m. for a client, number one, that sets up really high expectations of that client's always going to have you at beck and call. Number two, our bodies are designed to rest and recover. And if we don't give them that, we cannot do a really good job. If you look at psychology, after 6 hours, we are already burnt. So you're actually not getting the best out of yourself. And then through that is why are you doing it? Are you doing it for the client, or are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for your money situation? And maybe we need to relook at those money values. That's what I would say to that guy who worked until 1 a.m. And it might not be about money. It might be about something else, but he probably doesn't even know that yet because he hasn't figured it out. So some of the symptoms definitely would be sleep, mood swings, definitely. You come home in a happy mood, and then you see that your partner has brought in a bill and it's on the coffee table or on the kitchen table, and you pick it up and you put it either straight in the bin or, you get it out of the letterbox. And I talk about talking to my letterbox a lot. When you get it out of the letterbox and you're angry, that's going to continue for you. Headaches, strain in the back of the neck. If you're paying your chiropractor or someone else 60, 70, whatever dollars a week, you could be saving that on a phone bill or something else instead if we just have those conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I was just almost going to ask you about the consequences of if we're not dealing with financial anxiety. Now you're just mentioning about one of the medical bills. So I guess that instantly when we're dealing with anxiety, one of the things is if we don't know how to deal with it, or if we are not dealing with financial anxiety, actually it's going to impact on our physical and also mental health. So earlier you mentioned about the sleep itself and also all the pain that is going to show up in our body. And obviously that's why we need to visit the physio or the chiropractor. Any other symptoms or the consequences if we are not dealing with financial anxiety then?
Yeah, look, there's actually, I was saying this before, there was actually a thing that the government is legislating against, which is called bill shock, which is actually a real thing of, when you get a bill and you look at it, you actually go into a certain level of shock. So if we're talking about stress versus anxiety, shock would definitely be under the stress instead of anxiety, but it's more about that, we are knowing what's going to come in. Like, the consequences are obviously our decrease in health, and obviously our money actual situation worsens, which means you get this compounding effect, right? Which goes to a stage where we just cannot, it's too late then. It's so hard to come back from instead of starting from somewhere and figuring out. And then, that loss of security or whatever it is for you, that then compounds into something more serious. So the consequences versus the symptoms, the symptoms then increase, obviously, as a consequence, but other consequences, actual material consequences, start happening.
Yeah, and I also like the way that you are talking about the consequences. and also the compounding situation. Because I think that lots of people actually come to me because they found it is really hard, or they find it quite challenging to deal with their level of the debt. So one of the things that I actually wanted them to do is to really understand about where you're at. Whether you're in that certain level of debt, how much is it going to be, and then how long are you going to be able to tackle on that? What other resources you are going to have? A lot of time is because of the scare that or the fear that we put upon ourselves without looking at the picture. So the best way for us to do is actually put our head into the sand and then trying to hide away from the problems. So what can we do then?
Well, there's a few things that we can do, definitely. You know, I sort of talk about it like fear's in the driving seat, you know, but we need that fear to actually be in the boot instead of in the driving seat. It's like when you're driving along, do you ever think about your jack in the boot? You don't think about your jack, you know it's there, and if you ever need it, you can get it out. But it's not driving the car. You're not fearful that you don't have a jack to change a tyre. We need fear to be in the boot and love to be in the front. So we can do that through learning our values. You know, we've talked about this before. What are your money values? You know, what are your goals? I think that's great. Someone like you can definitely help, you know, with those goals and how, and like you said, how much do I have? Yep. You know, tackling it with a professional is definitely a great way, because the thing is that if you take the emotional part out of it and give it to a professional, you'll actually be able to figure it out much quicker and much easier than those symptoms becoming consequences at a later date.
Yeah, and then talking about the value and also the goals, we got a couple of the videos are specifically mentioned about these two topics. So if you haven't really seen any of that, do check it out here. And then at the same time, Kelly also mentioned about professionals. Who are going to be the professionals that we can reach out then?
Look, I think you need a couple of different professionals. Definitely someone like you who is the money person. That's not me.
I'm the money person.
Because we need someone like you to say, how do we do this? Do we consolidate? Do we? I don't know. I don't even know the thing though. So that's your thing. But for me, it's definitely a counselor. It could even be a coach. A counselor is really good to sit there and say, these are all the things that I'm afraid of. And like, for example, you know, maybe you've got 3 months worth of your mobile bill outstanding. You know, maybe we go through and do a role play about if you rang your mobile phone company and said, look, I can actually only afford $15 a week. Can I start paying it off? Or, you know, whatever it is, we work through that phone conversation so you then have that love in the driver's seat instead of fear, so you can actually start tackling it, and then we can change the way we talk about money. Money should not be talked about in a secret place in the corner of the room where, you know, it should be pride and center of, you know, how did you get through this and what did you do? And we share as a consciousness instead of making it feel dirty and it's something that only, you know, this type of people go and do.
Yeah, and I guess that's also one of the important things. If we are looking at the way that we are dealing with some of the, I wouldn't say the addiction, but like we have the support group for people to deal with their eating disorder or alcoholic addiction, all sort of things that really stick to that person's lifestyle. Sometimes we can't really just rely on ourselves to resolve the problem. We actually need to have the whole community to help you.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And it's about your self-worth at the end of the day. You know, if you love yourself, you'll make sure that everything in your life will start loving itself as well. You know, I've mentioned this before, when I get my bills, when I pay my bills, I say, thank you for allowing me to have clean water. You know, thank you to the power company for letting me have power. Thank you to the mobile company because I get to do this. Otherwise I wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's really important for us to remind ourselves that sometimes having that gratification is actually going to be really important, because you are going to attract the right energy into you.
Perfect.
And so I think that with the support from the financial end, a couple of the roles that I actually can think of. The very first one is going to be a financial planners. Planners are going to be able to find the strategies for you, to help you, to guide you, and also ask you to go through the whole process of dealing with the debt. And because sometimes the strategies could be quite complex, so there are going to be a certain fees involved. So that is going to be the very first group of people that you can seek for help. Second type of people, someone like myself, that I'm more combined with the coaching and also the education side of things. So I'm not going to show you the fish. I'm actually teaching you how to fish.
Fish, beautiful.
So
love
the
that analogy.
work that I'm doing here is more about guiding you to face the reality and also finding the strategy yourself. Build your muscle so that you are going to be able to hurdle with all the issues yourself, not just now and also for the future. Now, if the situation is going to get a little bit worse, and also you might have a special need, there are going to be another specialist that you can also seek help with. They are the financial counselors. Financial counselors usually work with government and also some non-profit organizations. They will be able to help you to deal and also negotiate with the creditors. But they are not going to really support for majority of our groups here. So I think that the most important thing is actually trying to understand about our problem and then be more proactively dealing with our money rather than getting to the really deep hole there.
Definitely. And I do have a worksheet that you can figure out, how much stress you have and how much that your money actually controls your life. If it's stopping you making decisions or if it's stopping you going out or doing things, that's a great conversation to start having. And even though the short term might not change, the long term will.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I like about you, Kelly, is you always prepare a worksheet, which is something so relevant to me. So before we wrap up, I think that one of the things that I actually wanted you to share with our audience is if there is any stories about the financial anxiety that you've seen from your work.
Yeah, look, I do. A lot of people come in here because they're stressed. That's what people don't usually come to counselling because they're happy. Yeah. So I have lots and lots and lots. But there's one in particular that I remember when he came in here, and he was super stressed, and he was thinking about quitting his job, but he couldn't do that because he wanted to support his family, and if he didn't do that, he was going to be too stressed to go to work. And he's sort of in this unbalanced situation where he just could not figure out what to do. And so, over a few weeks and some sessions, we sort of worked through some symptoms and then decided that, what was going on and what was making those symptoms worse and when. And, we sort of came to the fact that he was just in so much some debt, but not huge debt, but so much financial stress that it actually was more the fear of figuring it out than actually figuring it out. Once we figured it out, we did a what if game. So we said, what if all these things happened if it was negative, and what if all these happens that were positive? The negative was like 21 things might happen, but the positive was 6. And I'm like, so you're going to worry about 21 negative things versus these really great things. So we did this over a few weeks. He turned $60K worth of debt into, I think he's had something like $40,000 in the bank by the same time next year.
Oh, wow. That is such an awesome result.
Yeah, just by having communications, ringing up everyone, starting thanking his bills, started realizing that, he actually works less now, spends more time with his kids, and is still being able to pay off that debt and turn it all around, which I think is just by figuring out those fears and not letting the fear drive him, but the love drive him.
Love it. And I think that not only your end will see people like that, myself also see a lot of clients like this. A lot of times they are just having that fear of, oh, I got so much debt without knowing exactly what they got. Once they realize that, this is actually the amount that I have, this is the actual resource that I'm going to utilize and also tackle into, all of a sudden everything seems to be so clear and it's not going to be that scary anymore.
Yeah, and even though they've got the same amount of money, they feel like they've got more.
Yeah. I love this kind of successful story. So I think that we should definitely share some of love to people and let them know that, nothing is really like rocket science, as I always say. And the most important thing is actually looking at the reality and also understanding about where you're at. So I guess that to summarize what we are talking about today as a financial anxiety, 3 of the key takeaways from me is definitely what you said about understanding about your money value and also understanding about your goal itself. And both of the things that we already discussed in other videos that you can definitely look at. And then another thing is, of course, if you do feel like you need to have extra support, then do check out with the professional support.
Yes, I think they're great things to start with because, it's a real thing. And I want people to know that this is not just you either. This is what, we don't get taught some of this stuff in schools. We're not very good at it. We only get our money values from the people around us that we know. And sometimes they're not the greatest role models. So the professionals, they take the emotion out of it, and that's their job.
Yeah, and also when we're dealing with, like you said, our family members or friends, they probably also have their own financial anxiety themselves.
Yeah, their fears are driving you even more.
There probably is going to be more worry than you.
Yeah, and that happens. It feeds it. It feeds it like a fire. You give it oxygen and it gets bigger. You need to contain it, and so just be careful who you talk to about your money values, because not everyone's hearing these. Share away, share.
Yeah, definitely. Love that. Thank you so much for your sharing. So next time what we're going to do is Kelly is going to dive into some of the important self-care techniques for us to deal with some of the difficult times in life, especially when it comes to financial stress and anxiety. So if you think that what we shared, or you think someone may benefit from this content, please like, share, and subscribe our channel. And if you'd like to book into a complimentary consultation about your money DNA, or also wanting to have a conversation with Kelly, her contact detail will be captured down below. And if you have any questions or feedback, or you can definitely leave that at the comment section below, and we'll come back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for joining us today. Please keep financial fit and healthy, and we will see you next time. Bye.